So hey guys, I know I've been making a lot of music videos and I've never really talked to the camera before. Um, I wasn't even sure how I felt about my story until I sat down with some friends and I talked to them, and then I talked to my parents, and mine's gonna be a little bit of a different story. I was able to get on the phone with a couple people, and yeah, I'm gonna be showing some clips of that, and I think it's important to know what responses you don't want and you should never get. So that's kind of why I'm telling my story today. I was pretty average. I was smart, inquisitive, I was crazy hyperactive, and I was just had a normal childhood. I mean, we had our fights, we had normal fights, nothing was really different about it. My mom was a secretary to church, and we attended there my entire life. So, I mean, I made a great group of friends that I basically grew up with. Yeah, I was definitely bullied, and I think it's important to kind of talk about that. I mean, I went to a small private Christian school, and there was so much stuff going on, and most people had no idea, just how bad it was. And I didn't really talk to people about how bad it was, but it was very terrible growing up. I remember there was just one choir class. We were sitting in class, and we ended up having like a free time, or I think we were doing some kind of auditions for something. I don't remember, but we were sitting there, and there was this box for like one of the drums. And I remember I was just around them, like doing something, like doing my homework or something, and somehow they got me and put me into a box, closed the lid and sat on it for about a minute. And they thought it was hilarious. And, I went and told the teacher, and they didn't do anything. That was just joshing around. And you know what? That is the definition of gay bullying. That's the definition of things that should not be going on in the classroom. And it amazes me that this school was so pressed on making sure people didn't go to dances, making sure people didn't go to R-rated movies. And this stuff was happening in classrooms for real, in front of them. And I went to the administration, and they wouldn't do anything about it. So that was my crazy experience with being bullied in school. I don't know, I think it's really important to just talk about the fact that it was happening, and I did report it, and no one did anything, and that was the norm. And in some places that is the norm, and if you say anything, it just increases the gay bullying. I mean, basically what I did was I took the people I really was like, I have to tell someone, and I told two friends first at school. One person, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say his name, I don't want to put him on the spot, but the other person was my friend Joel, and he was really one of the first straight people that I told, and it was not a bad experience. I remember we were sitting on a Bible quizzing trip, and it was late at night. We always would stay up late talking about religion, about theology. We would just have like these amazing debates and amazing in-depth discussions. I mean, for our age, they were just so in-depth. And he knew for a while that I had been kind of holding something back from him, and he kept pushing me, and I decided that night I was gonna tell him. And at that time, I was still like thinking like being gay was a sin, because I'd been taught that my entire life. And I remember I was like, I need someone to help me. So I remember I told him that I was dealing with being a homosexual, or however you want to say it. And he was super supportive. He's like, well, what can we do? What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I think it was really nice to have an advocate and someone who I could go and talk to, who wasn't judgmental, and someone who kind of stood up for me, when people started being extra rude at school and stuff. So that was super, super amazing. And I'm so glad that I told him first and I had that experience. So, I mean, the biggest thing people are always worried about when they're first coming out, or coming out even to a friend, is, that they're gonna have an adverse reaction. And I have a story that really takes the cake for that. There's really two people that kind of sum up, the possible responses in something like this. And there's my friend Joel, who I was able to sit down and ask a few questions just about, what happened. And it was really cool to see that we had actually grown closer because of me coming out. He doesn't care. He treats me the exact same. I mean, he lives in China and I still talk to him. I mean, that's how close we are. He's probably my best friend. So I think that's really awesome that you can come out to someone and it can deepen a relationship. But on the other side, there's one of my friends and his name was John. And we started carpooling in 10th grade because my school is like 20 minutes away. We had to carpool to get there. And at first we were super quiet, never talked. And because he was like super jockey. And he did baseball and I think he did basketball too, I don't remember. It was one of those unlikely friendships that just by being around each other, he started coming to events at my church and we ended up just starting to be really, really good friends and just making each other laugh all the time. It definitely helped me kind of figure out that even though I was gay, it didn't mean, I wasn't a masculine dude and I wasn't, there was nothing wrong with me kind of thing. Because I was able to be friends with him, I was able to kind of see that I wasn't flawed or broken or anything like that. I remember outside, I do remember what it was now, because I told two people at once. I told someone in their car, and I told him right outside, the church. So we were walking out, and I was like, I have something to tell you, and I remember I was super nervous about it, because like I said, he was like a bro, he was like a jock, I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go down. I mean, so far it had so many great experiences, all these great things going on. I was like, I'm getting so much support. I was like, I need to be honest with my friend if I want to continue this relationship. And basically, I told him that I was gay, and he's like, okay. And he didn't really respond at all. And I was like, I mean, is that a big deal, whatever? He's like, not really. And I mean, he's I kind of knew already. So I mean, that was pretty cool, that we kind of, like everybody else, it didn't really affect our relationship at all. But the problem was that it did, and I don't know exactly what happened, but over the course of 2 months, we went from being these best friends that hung out and just did crazy stuff together. I mean, we would go to my lake house, just me and him, just hang out, tube, drive the boat around, just I don't know, just be friends, and then for him to kind of eventually stop texting me and me be like, yo, what's going on, dude? Can we hang out? And he'd be like, not tonight or whatever, or I'm doing something. And so I end up, through another friend, we arranged a meeting and we met at a Wendy's. And I was like, dude, what's going on? Are we cool? Are we not cool? What's going on? Are we still friends? Is something going on? I was so confused and trying to understand where he's coming from. And he's like, I mean, you being gay, I can't really accept that. And I remember, at that time, part of me just shut down because, I mean, this was the worst reaction I could ever have from somebody. And yeah, I mean, it was, I didn't think I was still emotional about it until I just said that. But yeah, I mean, after that, we didn't really ever hang out ever again, and I lost a huge chunk of my childhood growing up with him. I'm not crying yet, great, okay. I feel like I probably will cry. But yeah, so I mean, I think it's really important to know that some people are going to give you a great response, and some people are going to give you this really negative response, and it's nothing really to do with who you are as a person. I think that's what took me a bunch of years to kind of figure out, that good people are going to stick around, and people who don't want to be around you because you're gay, they aren't good people anyways. In the end, it ended up being that I was able to, by losing my friend John, I was able to make friends who did accept me for who I was, and I hung out with people who accepted me for who I was, and it ended up being okay. So it was very hard for about 2 years, but I eventually replaced him with my new friends, and up until a few days ago, I didn't even really think about him. So that's how much it kind of time does heal. So there we go. I mean, so I came out to my parents when I was about 18 or 19. And I remember I sat my mom down in a chair, in her favorite chair in her bedroom, and then my dad was on his bed. And I remember I just sat there looking at them, and I remember I was like shaking. I didn't know how to say. I mean, normally I could say whatever. You know, I was the person who said the things that needed to be said. I was the person who asked like these questions that need to be asked, you know, my whole life. But when it came to sitting down and talking to them, it was hard. And I remember I kind of walked around the issue for a while, and then I said, and I quote, "I think I'm going to start hanging out with more gay people." And that's where I left it at. And they didn't really respond positive or negative. They just said, you know, don't put yourself in a box, which I had no clue what that meant. So I was like, I'm not sure if they're supportive or not, you know? The past years, I've just been like thinking, like, what do they mean? What do they mean? So I was able to sit down and talk to them on the phone and kind of clarify those things.
I was just thinking that, you know, that you were just, I didn't know if it was really a true thing, and I wanted you to think about it and really weigh it before you just put yourself, you crossed that line, I guess. I don't know in my mind that it isn't just a choice.
I'm upset right now, but I'm still having a rational discussion about it. And that's where I guess I'm really... I mean, you guys are getting a little bit more frazzled than me, and I guess I'm just confused because I feel like I am the person who has more of the right. It's like...
You have more of a right?
Yeah.
To do what?
To be more upset about the situation.
Why?
What situation?
Why do you have a right?
Why do you make it a situation? Why is it such a situation? Why are you drawing a line in the sand?
Because there is a line in the sand. There's morally right and there's morally wrong.
Well, that all depends on how you believe what's morally right and what's morally wrong.
I was really hoping for the best. I don't know.
You were hoping that we would do what? What do you want us to do? Do you want us to
agree with you all the way?
Do you want us to go out and be part of the LGBT Advocacy Center?
No, you don't.
Do you want us to march?
You don't want to do that.
No, we don't.
We don't. Why do we have to do that?
And what you think morally is right isn't necessarily what we think is morally right. So that's just the way it is, Alex. And you can't hate us or be upset with us because we think that way. And
because we think differently.
Okay, well, I can be upset because this affects...
Okay, then be upset, but that's not going to help anything.
Because, no, I can be upset and I can be disappointed and frustrated.
Well, we're frustrated with you, too. We're very frustrated with you.
I don't understand why I've done anything to be frustrated about.
You're not living in a way that is morally right.